What makes games fun? That's quite a tough question, isn't it? I mean, it's not for nothing that so many devs and game designers at huge companies completely miss the mark on making their games fun. So let's start with what is fun? Well, it's something that makes you happy.
Oh my god!
Well, that's because our brains evolved to produce happy juices. So now we simply have to figure out the reasons why we evolved to get this happy cocktail out of certain things, what exactly these things are, and how it makes our games fun. These things are called instincts, and instincts are present deep within us. They govern the way we live life, and more importantly, the things we enjoy doing or dislike doing. Luckily, we don't have to go explore the entirety of human evolution to define our instincts, because people a lot smarter than me, like Sigmund Freud and Charles Darwin, already did all that. So don't worry, I won't bore you with the history of it all. Let's just go straight to the point. In total, there are 8 instincts, and they are aggression, which is the drive for survival and dominance; competition, which is the need to excel and achieve; autonomy is the need to make your own choices; altruism is the instinct to help others selflessly; peacemaking, which is the desire to maintain harmony and avoid conflict; conformity means the need to fit in with a group; cooperation is the need to work together towards a common goal; and finally, selfishness, which is the right to prioritize your own needs and desires. A good game tries to satisfy multiple or even all of these. This is also the reason why some of the most popular games are survival games. They simulate survival and therefore often satisfy each one of these instincts. Now, when it comes to games, not all instincts are equally important. For example, autonomy is probably the most important instincts of them all. Making decisions and being able to make decisions is simply very crucial in games. Choosing where to go and how to go there, or choosing to shoot and give up your position or stay hidden in that little rat bush of yours, are all part of it. The big rule here is to leave as much control to the player. Stuff like locking the player in place or pre-programmed losses should be avoided as much as possible. A good example for a game that has put special care into the autonomy instinct is Stanley Parable. Stanley Parable excels as an interactive game where players' choice is at the forefront. The whole game is set in a boring-ass office, and the only gameplay there is the player walking around and making decisions. Sounds boring, but you'd be wrong to think that. The game thrives on granting players autonomy with its clever integration of these choices into both gameplay and narrative. Throughout the game, a narrator that is seemingly omnipresent comments on your action, adding a dynamic and interactive layer to the experience.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room.
What's intriguing is how Stanley Parable invites you to actually challenge this narrator. At times, you can do the exact opposite of what he suggests or tells you to do, which adds a twist to the gameplay.
Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley.
This aspect not only heightens the sense of autonomy, but also creates a sense of empowerment and control for the player against the narrator's omnipresence. This crafts a most unique gaming experience and showcases how autonomy can be a very powerful tool in creating an impactful and nuanced gaming experience. In second place comes competition. Competition is simply the driving motivation in almost every game. The most obvious integration of this, which most of you probably thought of, is competitive multiplayer games like Overwatch, Apex Legends, and Fortnite. But competition is much bigger than that. If you go back to the definition I gave earlier, competition is the instinct to excel and achieve, and almost every game has some form of this, be it solving puzzles or finally succeeding at beating this goddamn piece of Anyways, you get my point. Your players need to have a goal that they want to achieve, and even better is if they want to excel at doing whatever your game makes them do. This is where speedrunners are born. Competition needs to be built into the core system of your game, but you can also use tricks to enhance this by simply adding things like timers, leaderboards, collectibles, achievements, and so on. The third most important one is, believe it or not, selfishness. In your game, the player needs to be the center of attention. He is the hero who saves the day. He gets the girl at the end, and he gets to indulge in his selfish desires. Like, be honest, how many times did you not share the diamonds you found with your friend even though you clearly had enough for 2 diamond pickaxes?
Shame on you!
A great example of a game that takes advantage of the selfishness instinct is Among Us, specifically when playing in the imposter role. In this position, the player's primary goal is to deceive and eliminate the other crewmates. This role flips the traditional cooperative gameplay on its head, encouraging the player to deceive and manipulate, putting their own survival above the group.
Prepare to die.
Run as fast as we can, little one.
The thrill of the imposter lies in outsmarting the other players, plotting secretly and enjoying the tension of potentially being discovered. Even when there are multiple imposters, a very viable strategy was to betray the other imposter to gain the trust of the crewmates and increase the chances of your own survival. Among Us showcases how a game can harness the selfishness instinct to create a compelling and engaging experience that resonates with the player's desire for cunning, strategy, and personal triumph. Okay, so these 3 instincts are the ones that I deem the most important ones in games. But now let's move on to the 2 instincts that aren't inherently necessary, but can definitely elevate the fun in your games dramatically. In no particular order, let's start with cooperation. Cooperation isn't just about enabling multiplayer, it's about crafting an environment where players can join forces with their friends and work collaboratively towards a shared objective. Let's take Lethal Company as a case study. This game's meteoric rise is largely attributed to its emphasis on cooperative gameplay. Lethal Company excels in designing game mechanics and challenges that require players to truly collaborate. This means strategizing together, sharing resources, and sometimes coordinating actions in real time to achieve complex goals. The essence of Lethal Company lies in how it fosters a sense of unity and teamwork among players. The game's challenges are designed in such a way that teamwork isn't just a good strategy, but actually necessary to advance. And with this, let's move on to aggression. Aggression in games has, for obvious reasons, always been controversial in the industry. The truth is, we humans are and always were of brutal nature. But to be fair, it was necessary in order for our species to survive and thrive. But in today's society, at least for most cases, this aggression simply isn't that useful anymore. And so with no way to satisfy our instinctive needs for aggression, we often fall back onto other means to release this pent-up aggression. Through combative sports, brutal action movies, and especially games. This is why games that allow us to satisfy this side of ourselves, be it by chainsawing through a demon's head in Doom or killing an innocent bystander in GTA, is so much fun. Anyways, how can you feed this aggression instinct in your players? Well, there are a lot of ways to achieve this, but overall there are 2 main rules. The first one is to give the player a reason to be aggressive. Most players will get uncomfortable being aggressive if there isn't an inherent reason for it. So give them a way to justify it, either because in order to win he needs to kill the other players, or simply because the story justifies it in some way. The second rule is don't punish your players for playing rough. It's totally fine to have consequences when they do stuff that go against the game's moral vibe.
It's all over, lawbreaker. Your spree is at an end.
But you don't want to go overboard with heavy penalties like ending the game or massively dropping their power. Just introduce changes that make sense, make the game more interesting, and keep the overall moral balance in check, without taking away too much fun or their progress. The final 3 instincts, altruism, peacemaking, and conformity, are great to have in-game, but aren't essential. Besides, as a developer you can encourage these behaviors, but there's only so much you can do since these traits really need to come from the players themselves. You can design systems to promote these behaviors, like enabling trading or incorporating communication features, but just keep in mind that if these behaviors are driven more by your systems rather than by the player's own inclinations, they probably won't be as effective or even genuine. You should now have a pretty good understanding of the psychology behind the fun in games, but the real challenge in making a game fun comes with successfully balancing all these instincts. Make your game have too many choices and your players will feel lost. Make him have too few choices and he'll feel frustrated. Same with making your game too hard or too easy. Balance is key, and the only real tip I have here is to have people playtest your game and fine-tune your game based on their feedback. Anyways, I hope that you now understand the fundamentals.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
and have a good idea of how to implement them and improve your game. But truth be told, even if a game perfectly tickles all these human instincts, it might still flop if you don't pay attention to two more things: juice and looks. Luckily, I've made 2 more videos about those 2 things, so pick one and go watch that next.